The OKC Thunder are so unfair. They're so unfair. To have two guys like SGA and Jalen Williams was just so frustrating to watch them beat my Knicks last night by 1 point. So let's start with Jalen Williams. I know that Jalen Williams is one of the best young talents in the NBA. I've watched some of him, not a lot, but some, like enough to know that he is one of the rising stars in the league. But like to watch it over the course of a full game was so, like, it was so mind-boggling that a dude that young can be so good in the way that he's good, where, first of all, he's insanely athletic. When he gets ahead of steam going, he really is unstoppable. He had one play where he just, like, got the ball, was just dribbling all the way down the floor, and, threw it down, and you're just like, wow, that's, like, so insanely unstoppable. But even more impressive was, like, the patience and the polish this dude has to, first of all, he's got great handles, but the way that he uses his handles, not necessarily to just bully his way to the rim with relentless ferocity, but more so uses it to get to his spots on the floor, to rise up and hit jumpers. Like, just the poise he had to do that felt so deflating to watch him toy my Knicks. He had 33 points on 14 of 18 shooting. He loves toying with the Knicks because he scored a career-high 36 against New York earlier this season. He was so good in carrying the Knicks during what was a relatively quiet night for SGA. And so the fact that your other guy, your Robin, your Pippen, your second banana, second leading scorer can step in like that into a large role and say, hey, this is going to be my night tonight. I'm going to carry the team, which he did, because New York went up by double digits and Jalen Williams helped bring them back. Like, the fact that you have a second guy who can do that, who can easily look like your best guy, is so insanely dangerous for the Thunder and super depressing if you're a fan of the team that OKC is playing, which I was last night, the Knicks. It was just so, like, you think, like, oh, SGA is not having such a great game. This is a recipe for success, and yet we're still locked in that tight game. And then speaking of SGA, like I just said, quiet night, 19 points on 7 of 16 shooting, didn't get to the line that night. If I told you that the Knicks held SGA to those numbers, you'd say, oh, easy victory, right? SGA is the head of the snake. You cut off the head of the snake. Like, it'll be fine. And yet, credit to Jalen Williams, credit to Josh Giddey, who had a triple-double. But then, like, what's just super deflating about it is that SGA can have a relatively quiet night. I remember there were at times watching the game where I was like, oh, SGA, like, hasn't really done much. Now, in fairness, sometimes that happens and the guy still winds up with 30 because I just am oblivious or whatnot. But, like, the numbers back it up. Like, SGA didn't really feel all that impactful. He didn't really feel like, he's putting, like, such a massive stamp on the game. And yet for him to them still come out and hit that game winner that he did was so, like, I can't even be mad about it because it was as good a defense as you could have played on that shot. Granted, Deuce is like 4 inches shorter, so like that was kind of annoying. You wish that you could have put some more size on SGA, like OG Anunoby, if he was just playing. That would have been great. But in terms of like the specific shot, like SGA, like baseline fadeaway with the hand in his face, like again, I'm a Knicks guy. Like I felt pretty confident about the defense when it happened. But for SGA to hit it, I mean, look, that's what he does on a nightly basis. He's one of the most clutch players in the NBA, and that's where you love his shot making in between the paint and the three-point line. It's that mid-range area where when you have that, it's so dangerous because you feel confident with any shot. You don't need to get to the rim. You could pull up from wherever, and the fact that he just did it without hesitation, without trying to dribble, even though he had like a couple more seconds to maybe try and get a better shot off, like, it was just... I'm annoyed as a Knicks fan because that felt like a game we could have and maybe should have won, but just as an NBA fan, it was such an impressive game. First of all, you're going into hostile territory, MSG, Knicks are playing well. Knicks are one of the best defenses in the NBA, and for Jalen Williams to have one of the better games of his young career again against the Knicks, 33 points, but also, again, only missed 4 shots. And again, the shots he were taking was very difficult. Again, a lot of mid-range pull-ups off the dribble with a hand in his face. For him to put up those numbers to lead OKC on a night where SGA either, wasn't having it, Knicks were, doing their thing, or maybe SGA sort of saw the writing on the wall and said, hey, this is Jalen's night, let's go to him. I thought that was really impressive. But then for SGA to still be able to at the end, because you would think like, oh, if Jalen Williams, is on right now, let's maybe go to him at the end of the games for OKC to still go to SGA on a night where he was relatively pedestrian by his all-NBA first team level standards, and for him to still hit that shot was just insanely impressive, but also super frustrating because I'm a Knicks fan and I wanted them to win. But ultimately, like this is what, you might have questions about OKC in these playoffs because they're still young, because they don't have so much playoff experience, but it's games like this where you're just like, dude, if not this year, then pretty damn soon, because that was a really impressive victory for them.